very few people in the real world know the secret that I'm about to tell you. But that is, as of a few weeks ago, I'm not a vegan anymore. And I've been a vegan for over 5.5 years, vegetarian for basically right at about 7. I've been kosher and still am for, well, this Thanksgiving makes 10 years. But ultimately, the reason I was a vegan is because of my sinus issues, which were caused by dairy. So I cut out all dairy, and I'm committed to not consuming dairy. But then I realized that with eating meat, it was causing me to have disidrotic eczema. And so for the past 5.5 years, I haven't had to deal with my eczema anymore. But ultimately, I'm re-entering eating certain kinds of fish, not bottom feeder fish, but fish and eggs into my diet to see if it will make a difference if it'll make my skin problems come back. And ultimately, the reason I'm doing that is because I became overweight as a vegan. Now, granted, 5'9" and 170 pounds. Most people wouldn't say that's overweight, but for me, I can't fit in my size 31 pants anymore. I struggle with size 32. Size 33 is like really what I am, and I don't want to be that way. I want to be size 31. That's important to me to be able to fit in my pants. So I'm like, okay, well, why is this happening? And you can Google his name. His name is Mark Glesney. His last name is spelled Glesne. Google Mark Glesney. He's a personal trainer, and he explained to me that despite all the protein I am getting from vegetables, fruits, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, they're not what's considered complete proteins that you can get from even just eggs and fish. Meat, yes, but even just eggs and fish have them. So I thought, you know what? If that will, because what was happening is my body was going into crisis mode, in famine mode, preparing for this thing that was happening, because it was suddenly being, like, even though it made me lose weight at first for about 1.5 years, and that was awesome, then what happened is I lost enough muscle protein mass that now my body just stores fat. So I decided to start experimenting to see if this would help, if I started adding more complete proteins, if that would make a difference. And so far, I mean, I can tell you this, I've remained at 170, whereas earlier this year as a strict vegan, I got all the way up to 176 several times. So at least if my weight is maintaining and not going over 170, that's with me eating fish like salmon, cod, tuna, and then eggs, eating those things, but no dairy. So, but I will say, and I don't know if you can see on the camera here, but on my pinky here, the eczema started coming back. So now I'm like, well, is that just because of the tuna? Because the tuna has high levels of mercury. And ultimately, the way I found out that I had a condition was on my honeymoon 10 years ago. My wife and I went to New England, and I ate a bunch of shellfish, and then my skin, that's when it got its worst. So it could just be the tuna. So maybe if I only eat certain kinds of fish, but not tuna, and I said salmon, cod, and other things that aren't bottom feeders or have higher levels of mercury, along with things, maybe I'll be fine. And I'm just testing things out right now. I'm experimenting. What can I ultimately get away with, but still be healthy with my skin and be the size that I want to be. There you go. Now that was important that I said that. Here's what I want to close with, and ultimately what I would have opened with, but I think you needed to hear that story first. So I'm on a website right now called vegetariannation.com, and it looks like the name of the title of the article is Types of Vegetarianism. And so there are different rungs on the ladder, but there's vegan, obviously, a person that I was, nothing from an animal, not meat, not eggs, not dairy. Then there's Lacto-Ovo Vegetarian, who does not eat red or white meat, fish, fowl, or eggs, but they will consume dairy products, which I don't consume dairy products. Then there's ovo vegetarians who don't eat red meat or white meat, fish, fowl, or dairy products. However, they'll eat eggs. Well, I'll eat eggs and fish, so that's still not me. Next is Lacto-Ovo Vegetarian. Let's see. So this is ultimately just a vegetarian, someone who doesn't eat meat, but they will eat eggs and dairy. Then there's Pescetarian. So basically it's someone who the only meat they'll eat is basically poultry, fowl, like bird, chicken, turkey, etc. But they will not consume red meat or fish or seafood. Okay, I'm willing to eat certain kinds of seafood. So then there's Pescetarian, basically meaning that you'll eat fish, but other than that, you're a vegetarian. All right, and then there's Flexitarian, which basically means you try your best to be a vegetarian and not eat animal products, but you're willing to eat meat when it's there at a wedding, if that's all they have, or whatever it is. Okay, so, but nowhere in here do I see any label for me at this time, as I'm currently experimenting. For all I know, I may go back to being a vegan because my skin condition gets that bad. I don't know, we'll see. But I'm open-minded. With that being said, to my knowledge, there's no label for someone like me. So let's try to figure that out in the comment section. You can leave a comment right here, but ultimately, I don't consume dairy because it messes up my sinuses. I don't eat meat, but I will eat fish, so that's technically meat, but only fish and only certain kinds that are kosher. So not bottom feeder fish and not like shrimp, that it'd have to be kosher or halal, I guess, for me to eat it. And I will eat eggs. So yes to eggs, yes to certain kinds of fish, no to meat, and no to dairy. So I don't think there's a word for that. And if there was, it'd probably be pretty ridiculous, like some of the names on that list just there. But if anybody can help me out, what do you call a person who's basically a vegan but will eat fish and eggs? If you can answer that question, please let me know. But again, I predict it would probably be a ridiculous name, and it's easier to just say, I'm a vegan who eats fish and eggs, because ultimately I am a vegan, but I'm supplementing, getting extra protein from eggs and certain kinds of fish. Is there a name for that? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's invent it if we have to, right here in the comments.